All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session today on overcoming addiction through Buddhist practices, a mind lab event. So I think we can all somewhat relate to addiction, whether it is addiction to drugs and alcohol or even chocolates, Korean dramas, potato chips. So I'm really curious to hear, what answers do the Dharma have to undo addictions? So we are very honored today to have Venerable Dassa Thero speaking with us today, along with Venerable Mahinda Thero visiting. So they're both in person at the Metta Center right now, and we're very blessed to have you both here, Venerables. And just want to do a quick plug before I get started as well. So both Venerables will also be guiding a free Buddhist detox retreat. I think we all need a detox in Katoomba in August. So keep an ear and an eye out in the announcement at the very end for more details about the retreat, and I'll also post it in the chat. So Venerable Dassa Thero is a young and charismatic Buddhist monk. Having grown up in a loving family of two sisters, from a very young age, Venerable demonstrated an endearing sense of compassion and loving kindness towards all who crossed his path. Educated in a prestigious British grammar school, very soon he developed an acumen for examining every aspect of life, both physical and spiritual. His life took a turn off the beaten path when he met a teacher who was prepared to show him the absolute truths. And under his guidance, Venerable Dassa Thero ventured into the depths of the Buddha's philosophy. And the story continues with Venerable's talk. And then at the very end, as usual, Tina will be facilitating the Q&A discussion towards the end of the session. So without further ado, Venerable, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. It'll be definitely a great pleasure to talk to all of you. You can all hear me, right? Yes, perfect. So today, I want to talk about how we can overcome our addictions or our addictions using Buddhist principles and practicing in a Buddhist way. But before we get started, I want to talk about a disease. A disease has been there since, I think, the beginning of philosophy, maybe. But it's but before we talk about disease, when I decided to talk about overcoming addiction, I found a video, which I'd like to show all of you. I think you may hear this. Can you all hear this?
Yes.
Right. What do you guys think of the video? Oh, pause it, yes. What do you guys think about the video? It was a good video, right? Now we know addiction is a very important topic, and it's a problem that we have faced as humans and as beings. Now, it is something that we find to be a problem and something that we have to overcome. And to overcome this, we have tried, and we've been trying and trying and trying, because after people are addicted, or people become addicted, and they become they need something. Now what happens is they will do whatever they can to get this. Now, before we go further into the topic of addiction, I want to go and talk about this disease. Now, this disease is a very important disease. It's been there since the beginning of philosophy, as I said. And this disease does a lot of harm. And this disease is called pointing the finger away, Notformeitis. It is not a real disease, don't worry, but this is something that we all do. The reason why we do this is because it's, it's not for me, it's for this person. This is what me and my teachers always do this. When we think that, what I'm saying, or when something's said to me, it isn't for me, it is for someone else. As if this is perfect for someone else, not for me. Now, this is very dangerous, because the things that may be said may not be for you now, but could be for you in the future, or could also be for you, because we don't know to what degree we have a problem. So pointing the finger away, not for me, itis, is a very big disease, and a lot of people have it. And I hope none of you in the audience have it today, because I'm talking about a problem that we all face. But then you'll say, but then I'm not addicted. So what is addiction? Now, addiction is when you have a strong physical or psychological need or an urge to do something or use something. It's a dependence on a substance or activity, and it can impact your daily life. Now, what does that mean? What sort of things do we have a strong or psychological need and we have an urge to do something? Because when we talk about addiction, the first connotation that comes to our head is usually drugs. And it's not wrong. Drugs is a major thing that we're all addicted to. But it's not only drugs. What else can people be addicted to? Phone. What else? Cigarettes. What else? Huh? Gaming. Perfect. What else? Anyone in the audience? Shopping.
Thinking.
Honestly, the list goes on and on and on. There are many things, including drugs. And not only drugs, but things like gambling, phones, internet. And of course, nowadays, the more and more we go and we progress in technology, technology becomes a great addiction. Now, these sort of things, so this is just a small list, right? But there are way more. So if we look at this list and we look at what things like really stand out, well, alcohol. Alcohol is a massive problem, and it is almost like you're drinking, well, your body is basically taking poison, basically, and it's reacting as if you're taking poison, giving you this. And of course, we know a lot of people, I've known a lot of people who have been addicted to caffeine, right? Who cannot survive without caffeine. I remember once we went camping somewhere and no one bought coffee. It was the end of the world, trust me. There was one of my friends was so addicted that the moment we found out that we haven't packed coffee and it was early in the morning, he asked, did we pack coffee? And we checked our bags, we rummaged all through everything we had and we said, we haven't packed coffee. And I remember for another hour or so, all he said was, I need coffee, I need coffee, I need coffee, I need coffee, I need coffee. And every single time he said it, it became slower and worse and worse and worse. Eventually we had to stop the trip, go to the nearest store, buy a cup of coffee, and come back to the trip. Because it was such an addiction. And of course, not just drugs, meaning not just the things that are what we call recreational and for the fun of it, but also things that are supposed to help us. Like there are medicines like for depression and anxiety that people are very addicted to. Now, it's not because it gives them a high or gives them this feeling inside, but because it can do something else. And we'll talk about why as well. Social media, video games, food, working, cooking, exercising. No, these are all very big things. Now, if we were to scale this all down and make it relatable to all human beings, addiction, for me, is like an extreme habit. Something that is a habit that we cannot get rid of. It's something that affects our day-to-day life. And we have to stop it because we feel as though it's not good. Now, we're using Buddhist principles, right? So what sort of things should we use? Or what sort of things has the Buddha used when he comes across a problem? First of all, we have to understand the problem. So what is addiction? We came across that it's something that, well, we need. Well, it's something that, well, it's the urge to do something or to take something. Now, so a habit. Now, why? Why do we have these addictions? Where do they come from? Now, if we look at how the mind works, we all know that our mind is in constant search for happiness. It is in a constant search for happiness. So what we can say is, we know the underlying cause for these addictions have to be something to do with happiness. Their search for happiness has taken them somewhere. And if we look back at the list as well, all of these sort of things are supposed to make us happy. They'll take things to make them happy. And then if we went a bit deeper and we look closer, I remember when I did a bit of research, the first thing they'll say is a cause will be there'll be a trigger, something to trigger the addiction. Now, again, this is not addiction to drugs, alcohol, nothing like this. We're talking about habits that we will have, habits that we cannot get rid of, that are not easy to get rid of. So, for example, think about it. Like, think about it. Are you addicted to your phone? Are you addicted to your laptop? Are you addicted to social media? Are you addicted to gaming, video games? Are you not addicted to YouTube? Now, to start all these addictions, there has to be a trigger, something to trigger these emotions. Now, these triggers that we can say are some sort of stimuli, something. So it could be maybe, it could be a time, it could be a place, it could be a person. For example, if we were to take an example, let's say we are addicted to watching YouTube, right? What can trigger it? It could be a time. For example, I remember back when I went to school, the moment I come home after school, I would throw my bag off and I literally like jump onto the sofa, take my phone out and start watching YouTube. So the time was there. Or it could be a place. For example, it could be, say, your room or in your car or something. It could be a time, it could be a place, it could be pretty much anything. Could even be a color. Now, so what is triggered? What triggers? What is triggered? Craving. What does this mean? What does craving mean? Now, craving is pretty interesting because this is something that we all have, craving, right? So, for example, say we all may crave for chocolate. We all may crave for a cake. We may crave for many things. Now, again, what we have to realize is we're talking about a mind here. Although we talk about when we talk about people, what we're really talking about is a mind and a body, right? So we're talking about a mind here. Now, for a mind to come into being, what does it need? It needs a trigger. Trigger meaning it needs a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or even a memory or thought. So these are the triggers. When the mind arises, it arises, say you are triggered with something that it will trigger, craving. Now, the moment you have craving, you have a response. What is the response? So for example, again, if we come back to addiction to, say, my addiction I used to have to YouTube, right? Come home from school, coming home and looking at the sofa, that's the trigger. Craving is for YouTube. Response will be jump on the sofa, take out my phone and go through YouTube or go through social media. And then that will give you the outcome. The outcome of watching YouTube. Now, this is also can be used for addictions And again, addiction is also a habit. So this is also the way a habit forms. A habit will form from a trigger, craving, response, and an outcome. And also will addiction. So if we were to look at this and to look at things, so we're trying to look at ways to overcome an addiction. What part of this can you overcome? Well, what part of this can you get rid of? Now you could say, yeah, we can get rid of triggers. How? We go to a completely different location and in a completely different environment. Say we go on holiday. Now I won't see the sofa. Now so we have no school, no sofa, no YouTube. Perfect. But to what extent can we get rid of triggers? I remember once I was talking to a fellow monk, and he said he used to, like, even after he got married, when he went abroad, when he went on holiday, he would do whatever, just the sight of peace would trigger a strong emotion to eat. And so whenever he feels peaceful, he'll go and eat. So can we get rid of the peaceful trigger? Or can we get rid of, say, smells? This trigger of smell. So I know sometimes when we go past a fast food restaurant, a fast food joint, you have the smell. That's a trigger. Now that trigger, can we get rid of? Well, technically we can. We can go to the shopkeeper and go like, excuse me, McDonald's, can we please not put the smell out because it triggers me. It makes me feel hungry. You can do that. But how many McDonald's joints do you think there are in the world? To do that to each and every one of them, next to impossible. So yes, you can get rid of triggers. But that's hard, that's difficult. Now, let's go backwards. Outcome. Can we get rid of an outcome? Oh, what we can see here is an outcome is because it's a part of this cycle. Meaning that you can't just randomly just get rid of outcome. You can't like uproot outcome straight away. Because why? It's a part of a process. It's like it's like almost trying to get rid of it's like trying to get rid of a fire, right? Fire without touching the causes. Or it's like trying to get rid of a table without getting rid of the legs and the tabletop. Is that possible? Like, can you get rid of a fire without touching the causes? Can you separate a fire without touching the causes? No. The causes you have to remove the causes to remove the fire. So if I told you, okay, name me ways to, so say there's a massive fire on my right? A massive blazing fire. What should we do? What should we do? Water. Pour water on it. What else can we do? Yeah, so we can say if it's say from like a wood, right? We can try to move away the wood pieces. What else can we do? You think? Fire extinguisher, right? Say those carbon dioxide ones. Or let's say you can try and maybe like cover the fire, smother the fire away. Now, what is that actually doing? Are we actually getting rid of the fire itself? No. Exactly. We get rid of parts of the fire. So by adding water, you're getting rid of the temperature. By using a fire extinguisher, you are getting rid of the oxygen. By covering, smothering it, you're getting rid of the oxygen. By removing the wood or removing the fuel, you're getting rid of the fuel. By doing all of this, you are getting rid of the causes. By getting rid of the causes, now the fire is not there. So the outcome we can't touch. You can't get rid of the outcome without touching the causes, because the outcome is a manifestation of the causes. It's like trying to build a house without material. Can we do that? No. You need the material to build the house. Okay. So we have the outcome. So we understand that we can't do anything about the outcome. What about the response? So say you like coffee, or let's say you like, what's it called? Let's say you like bubble tea, right? Let's say you like bubble tea, right? You absolutely love it. Now you can, so every time you go past the bubble tea shop, right? You can look away and say, you know what, I'm not gonna take bubble tea today. You can like close your eyes and start walking away, or close your eyes, nose, and ears, and you can like shut down everything and try walking away. That is possible. But to what extent can we do that? To what extent can we like shut down our senses and try to move away? To get rid of the response is very difficult. It's like having chocolate. You like chocolate, you have chocolate, but you can't eat chocolate. You're stopping yourself from eating chocolate. Like I remember there used to be an ad for, I think it was Haribo's, where they have like a toddler. Do you guys have seen it? A toddler, and they leave like a Haribo, and they say, if you can stay there for an hour without touching this Haribo, I will give you 2. Now, most toddlers, they don't understand the benefit of resisting. So what their response is, numb. They don't think twice, just, I must have Haribo, or I must have food. I must have this sweet. But as we grow older, we know, okay, if I resist for an hour, I can get 2. So there is a better outcome. Therefore, your response is, okay, I'm going to resist. But is it easy resisting? Is it easy? You have something that you really want, but you're saying no. Of course not. It is very difficult. It's one of the hardest things you can do, resisting. So whatever your response is, you can try to change your response, but that is difficult. But then there's craving. Now, craving, there is something we can do about that. What I mean by craving is your idea that you have towards an object, or towards an activity or an object. For example, so coming back to the bubble tea, right? You go past the bubble tea shop. Only if you crave for it, or only if you want the bubble tea, will you go and buy it. Or else would you? Would you buy it if you don't want it? Would you do something if you don't want it? So, for example, you go past maybe 100 shops, but yeah, you don't stop and you buy something, do you? It's only if there is a special shop that, I don't know, that sells something you really like. Do you stop when you go in and you buy? That's because of craving. And what I mean by craving is that you make a connection between what? My happiness and the object or the activity. You make a direct connection and you say, okay, object activity equals happiness. I like, I want. Because of this connection we have, we think, okay, I must do something about this. The mind takes no chance but to do something about it because it craves. Now, for example, right, the idea of just craving or just wanting something, not getting, is that a positive emotion, a positive feeling? that you really want something, you really want it, but you can't have it. No, it's a negative or something that brings up a lot of pressure inside of us. It's almost a pressure build up inside of us. Craving. The more you want, the more pressure builds up. Now, what we have to understand is this pressure buildup is well, it's almost like a I don't know. Have you guys when something that I used to do, right, as a very mischievous child, was I used to buy these soft drink cans, right, and throw them around with friends, right? Not drink it, but throw it around, right? I do not advise anyone to do that. Trust me. But I used to do this. So I'll take it and throw it to a friend. The friend will catch it and throw it back. Now, eventually the can, excuse me, eventually the can will start to bulge, right? And we'll still throw it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until what happens? Until someone drops it and it sprays it everywhere. Now, that's what happens to us as well. Because the moment we start craving, something, the pressure builds up. It's like the Coke can. Every time we shake it, the pressure starts to build. And build and build and build and build. And then the moment we release that pressure, or say the moment that it drops and explodes, what do you think the can feels on the inside? A relief from that pressure. It almost feels a feeling of calm or feeling of no pressure. And the can, if the can feel, the can will really enjoy it. Because why? Pressure, and then there's no pressure. So what this craving does, this craving creates an internal pressure inside of us. And it is because of this internal pressure that we go to the response. It's because, not because, although it feels as though, you know what, I ate chocolate because I like chocolate. Although it feels though that is the case, I would say otherwise. I would say you ate chocolate because you couldn't handle the pressure that the chocolate gave you. Therefore, as your response, it was to eat the chocolate. Therefore, you got the outcome of reduced pressure, therefore happiness. It wasn't the chocolate that gave you the happiness. It was that you thought the chocolate gave you happiness. Instead, the craving created a pressure. That pressure builds up. And then as a response, when you went and ate that chocolate, the pressure, the craving itself starts to reduce. Therefore, as an outcome, you got what? Pleasure. Now, here's the thing. What we have to do is we have to understand what is happening here. We have to truly understand what is happening here. The moment we understand what is happening, now we can find ways to stop it. Or even if we understand, we can even find ways to start it. What I mean is there are things that we would like to stop, and there are things that we would like to start. Because remember, this is a habit we're talking about. There are habits that we like to stop, and there will be habits that we like to start. So, okay, think about it, right? What can we do? First of all, we have to understand the process that's happening here. So remember, we're talking about a mind here. We're talking about a mind. And okay, this is a good question. How big is the mind of a fish? How big is it? Do you think it's bigger or smaller than the mind of an elephant? Is it? Is it? Is it smaller? How big is your mind? The mind, not the brain. What do you guys think? Okay, let's compare. Okay, how if we were to compare your mind and the mind of an ant, or a mind of, say, a blue whale, is your mind bigger or smaller than the ant, or bigger or smaller than the blue whale? There is no difference, because the mind doesn't have a form. The mind doesn't have a specific shape. Instead, the mind is just a process. For example, okay, what is the shape of heat? What is the shape of heat? Can you give it a shape? All right, what is the shape of love? Like, can you say, okay, my love is this sort of shape? No, these cannot be given a shape. Now, next question is, how, okay, the way your mind works and the way the person next to your mind, next to you, their mind, the way those two minds work, do you think they're different? They work the exact same way. Exact same way meaning not exactly, because we are different because of our experience and our knowledge. But the way the mind works is pretty much the same, because the mind's purpose is to process the outside stimulus. So what you are seeing, what you are hearing, what you are smelling, what you are tasting, what you are feeling, what are you thinking? To process what is happening, that's what the mind is for. The mind isn't something. Instead of just, it's almost like, I think for those who like, it's like, it's not like it's something. It's just something that happens. It's a process. But that process is similar to each and every one of us, because each and every one of us has a mind. Now, that mind, right? That mind has is triggered by a stimuli. Now, again, the reason why I like this cycle is because you can take this in a macro scale, and you can take this in a micro scale as well. What I mean is, you can take this as in big things, as in like massive addictions, and you can also take this as small things, as in simple things that we also find pleasure in, because it works in the same way. So think about it, right? There's a trigger. For example, imagine you have never seen chocolate before. You've never seen chocolate. You've never heard about chocolate. Do you want chocolate? No, it's not in your world. So when you see chocolate, the simple sight of chocolate, that's a trigger, right? Now that trigger comes into the mind and is processed. And then you come to the idea, okay, chocolate. I like chocolate. I want chocolate. And therefore you come to so you now have the want for chocolate. So what is your response? I have to eat chocolate. Because that is what the mind wants, to relieve itself from pressure. To relieve itself from pressure, it needs chocolate. And that release of that pressure is what brings us this pleasure. That rhymes. But the release of that pressure is what brings this pleasure. And that is what the outcome is. And because our mind enjoys this happiness, enjoys being happy, it attaches itself firmer. It becomes stronger. Now, one of my fellow monks told me that these aren't a cycle. This is more of a spiral. Why? Because craving or this attachment or this want that we have becomes stronger every time we feel pleasure. Now, because of that, it becomes tighter and tighter and tighter. For example, coming back to my YouTube addiction back then, right? I was to watch YouTube scarcely. But then when I realized that this was what makes me happy, then every once a day became twice a day. Twice a day became 3 times a day, 4 times a day. And then it became hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. And then revising, out the door, YouTube. School, out the door. Find ways to enjoy myself. Because it becomes tighter and tighter, because that craving or this attachment or this wanting that we have becomes stronger and stronger. Because why? We made the connection that, you know what? YouTube equals happiness. YouTube will bring me happiness. But really, was it YouTube that brought you happiness? Or was it that relief from that pressure that we felt? Or was it from, so coming again, right? So let's coming back. Let's also take some more examples about this relief from this pressure. So I want you to take a moment and think about something that brings you happiness, right? Something that brings you a lot of happiness. Now I want you to think that that somehow it's banned. What brings you happiness? It's banned for 4 days in a row, right? So whatever you like, there's some sort of international ban. You cannot get it. Something that gives you pleasure. Now, on the 3rd or 4th day, when the ban is released and you get to do that finally, get to take that or eat that or do it finally, your pleasure, would it have increased or decreased than if you just had it now? It would increase, wouldn't it? For example, okay, let's take chocolate. You like chocolate. I don't give you, I say you're banned from chocolate for 3 days. And then on the 4th day, I give you chocolate. Wouldn't that small piece of chocolate make you more happy than if I just gave you chocolate straight away? Because why? That craving or that want has created a pressure. That pressure builds up inside, and therefore, the moment you relieve yourself by having chocolate, now you feel this sense of pleasure or this happiness. Now I remember, right? So at school, right? And I think some of you may have done this as well. Like, you know how sometimes you introduce a certain food to another person, so they've never eaten it before, and you try to introduce a new food. I remember I used to have a friend who was he liked tasting food, and I remember me and my other friends have also tasted it, and we all like it. He's never had it before. This other friend. And so we tell him about it, and we say, it's delicious. It was, it's better than cotton candy. It's better than chocolate itself. It's better than all of that. And then, so inside of him, it's now the pressure starts to build, because why? He wants to have it. He wants to know what it is. And I remember giving him something completely random. Completely random. We said it tasted sweet, right? So we gave him something that tastes sweet, but it was completely random. But that made him so happy, and he was like, "Wow, this actually tastes much better than cotton candy." But it wasn't the thing that we were talking about. It was something random, because we don't need to know exactly. We don't need to get exactly what we want. If it feels like it, that's enough. For example, right? Let's say you're waiting for a text by someone that you love dearly. Say you're waiting for a text from your mom. When you see, or let's say someone else takes your mom's phone and gives a text, wouldn't that text message still make you happy? Because why? Is it because your mom texted you? No, because you thought that your mom texted you. So the happiness that we feel isn't in this object, but it is something that is, it's a connection that we make. That connection creates pressure. That pressure, the relief from that pressure brings us pleasure. That is what our pleasure is, or that is what makes us, well, crave for things. So if we come back to the cycle again, trigger, craving, response, outcome, right? This happens with every single thing, right? Anything, we can put this into this, right? Anything that we like. What we have to do now, if this is the process, if this is what creates pleasure, and if it's pleasure that we're coming after, now what can we do to get rid of this? How can we stop this cycle? Now, we said that, okay, getting rid of triggers is hard. Does that mean that we shouldn't do anything to the triggers? So getting rid of, okay, so we're saying that getting rid of triggers is difficult, right? You can't get rid of all triggers. So should we just let go of triggers altogether? No. Because what we have to realize is that this cycle starts here. So until we break the cycle, right? Until we find a way to get rid of the cycle, we have to stop it from happening. So for example, let's say we have an addiction to chocolate, right? You can put whatever you're addicted to in this, right? But until you are able to somehow find a way to break the cycle, refraining from it is a good idea. Stopping the trigger from happening is a good idea. Because what? Because the more times this cycle goes around, the more we come to the output, and the output gives us pleasure, the more we crave. Remember, it's spiral. It comes tighter and tighter. So to stop this spiral from squeezing us in, we have to stop the trigger. Now, of course, we can try. We can try our very best. So say chocolate, we can stop, say, buying chocolate, having chocolate in a cupboard, or removing it from our environment. But that's not enough. Now, again, we can do something to the response. So let's say you are triggered, right? Say you see chocolate. You're going to do something to response. You can try your very best and stop actually going and eating chocolate. Why again? So you stop the outcome. So because when you come to the outcome, the craving becomes stronger. So it's almost like you're trying to stop yourself from increasing, or stop the spiral from tightening further by attacking a response. So you give it the right response. So for example, you're addicted to chocolate, you're triggered, you see a bar of chocolate on your table. You want this chocolate. Now the response you do, let's say you stop. Let's say you don't go and eat the chocolate. Now the outcome cannot enforce this view you have, cannot enforce the idea you have. So again, response. Try to stop yourself from doing it, to stop the outcome. But again, doing all this is very difficult, and and you have to continuously give effort until you get rid of the core here, until you get rid of the core drive here, and that's craving. If you don't get rid of craving, stopping the triggers, stopping the response will take a lot of energy and would be next to impossible. So to get rid of craving. Now, how do we get rid of craving? We have to look at, where does craving itself come from? Where does craving come from? Craving comes from what? The idea that we have. The idea that, you know what? Chocolate equals happiness. That chocolate will bring me happiness. Or I don't know, winning this video game will make me happy, or shopping will make me happy. This connection that we build between the item and this happiness, that connection is what we have to sever. That connection is what we have to break. So how do we break that? We break that by understanding that what brings us pleasure is what gives us the pressure. Again, it rhymes. It's really weird when it rhymes, isn't it? But yeah, we have to understand that what gives us this pleasure is the thing that makes us, that is what gives us the pressure, and the build up of pressure and the relief from this. It's almost like a different process here. On top of our normal day-to-day process, there's an underlying process: the pressure, the relief from pressure, pressure, the relief from pressure. Every time we relieve, we feel this, these positive emotions, happy, joyful, and all this. And the moment the pressure is increasing, we feel angry, we feel stressed, we feel frustrated. But when the anger, when this pressure is constant, we don't feel it, but the pressure is still there. Because you can say, okay, yeah, okay, I understand pressure, the relief from pressure, it all makes sense. But then right now, I'm not under pressure. Right now, I feel no pressure. But the pressure is still there, isn't it? That's why if I showed you the chocolate, pressure will increase. Just because chocolate's not there doesn't mean the pressure's not there. The pressure, because it's stationary, or because the pressure isn't changing drastically, we feel normal. So for example, if I asked you like egg, are you happy now? You could say no. Are you sad now? No. Does that mean you're not under pressure? Because if I was to change something in the environment, wouldn't that change your emotion? So for example, I remember once, let's say I remember one day, it was a beautiful day outside, right? It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. It was perfect temperature. And I remember one of my fellow monks asked me, like, are you happy? I was like, it's a good temperature, but it's not bringing me happiness. Are you sad? No. But does that mean you are happy? Or does that mean that the temperature around you doesn't affect your happiness? And I said, no, because I was still under pressure. Because let's say there was a cold breeze. You know, those breezes that give you like a shiver down your spine. That's terrible. Yeah. One of those. Now you feel, oh, it's cold. I don't like this. Because of the pressure increase. So what we have to do here is we have to understand the nature of our happiness. We have to show ourselves that our happiness is this relief from this pressure, because it's the happiness that gives rise to craving. It is happiness that brings craving. So we have to sever this connection we have, that this item will bring us happiness. By severing the connection, now you can get the trigger. Now you can look at chocolate. Now you can look at, say, you can go shopping. You can play video games. You can do everything you're doing. You change nothing here, but by getting rid of craving or getting rid of this attachment that you have to this object. Now your response and your outcome will not bring you, you won't have the outcome of addiction. You will not be addicted no longer. But you will still, so again, this is not talking about like drugs or anything. We're talking about the normal things that everyone's addicted to. But let's say that's even if we talked about drugs, the moment we get rid of craving here, mental craving, now you can still be triggered. So you'll still feel the outside world. But when you get rid of craving, your response wouldn't be, I must have this. Instead, your response will be a normal response. You will be able to live in the world just like normal. So what we have to do is get rid of craving. How to get rid of craving? By understanding that the item itself isn't what brings me happiness. Instead, it's relief from this pressure. The relief from pressure is what gives me pleasure. Again, this is not easy. It's not going to be easy because this cycle, for every time we are not aware and we're not mindful, this cycle will continue to go. Every single moment we are not aware and we're not mindful. But the moment we become mindful and the moment we become aware of the cycle that goes around, now what? Now we can stop this cycle. Now we can put the medicine in and we can cure the cycle. We can stop the cycle from happening or stop the bad cycles. But to do that, we have to do what? Get rid of craving. Now, this is why I would encourage people to, like, whatever they have, whatever sort of addiction, because we are all addicted. We are all addicted to pleasure. Not happiness, pleasure. What I mean by pleasure is it's relief from this pressure. We are addicted to it. So we must detox ourselves. We must find a way to remove the outside. We have to remove this connection. We have to find a way to detox ourselves. And that's why I would encourage everyone to find times to detox themselves and then come back into their lives. Find ways to remove craving and then come back into your lives. Because again, all we're trying to do is we're trying to live life without grief, without anxious, without stressing, without these negative emotions. That's all we're trying to do. And the only way you can do that is by getting rid of craving, by getting rid of this attachment we have. By understanding the way the mind works and by understanding the way your happiness works, you can get rid of craving. So again, coming back, right? You see, say, you go past a fast food joint, right? You have the smell. You say you still crave for it. You crave, and you have responses to go inside and take it and eat it. So outcome would be eating food. All we're doing is we're just showing that food or this fast or food itself isn't what brings happiness. It's a relief from this pressure. Now you'll be able to go and by understanding that and by disassociating or unconditioning yourself from this, now you can go past this shop, you can go past this, you'll be able to smell the same thing, but your response won't be to go and eat unless you are hungry, unless you need to. So now you're driven not by addiction or not by wanting, not by attachment, but you're driven by what you need to do, not by what you want to do. So again, how to overcome addiction? Trigger, response. Try to reduce these as much as you possibly can. But while reducing these, you have to attack craving. How you attack craving? By understanding the process of the mind, by understanding that the pleasure that we feel from this the pleasure that we feel is the relief from this pressure. And by getting rid of that, just like getting rid of the causes of fire, now the outcome is you are no longer addicted. And you can live the rest of your life without that. Again, it doesn't mean you're changing anything. It doesn't mean that you're stopping. It doesn't mean that, you know what, you have to change every single thing in your lifetime, in your life, in your entire lifestyle. But all you can do is you can be happy. Because we're addicted because of happiness, but addiction doesn't bring us happiness. So the eradication of addiction shall bring us happiness. Okay. Do we have any questions here?
So, Venerable, is it okay if you just turn off the PowerPoint and stop sharing, and then we can have you then at the center? Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got a few questions, and for those who are here in person, if you have any questions, there is some paper and pen, or you could just ask it. So, Venerable, perhaps we'll start with a question in the room. So we've got a question here. Yeah.
Thanks, Bhante, for the talk. I just had a question about looking at addiction in a clinical setting. So, for example, people with long-standing chronic pain, addictions to opioids are very common, as well as long-standing anxiety and depression, and long-standing benzodiazepine use is very common as well. How do you support someone in that withdrawal phase when there's such agitation with the pressure build-up, and that there's psychomotor agitation, such an enmeshment to what they want? What are some practical ways of supporting someone through that, withdrawal
symptoms? So, like you say, like once someone's addicted to especially these recreational drugs, like you saw in the video that we started with, the more they take, the less pleasure or the less happiness they get from it. But they are now dependent on this to bring them happiness. And so when you withdraw it, the body does because a drug is something that you physically intake. So most of the pleasure that we talked about is something that the mind feels. But when it comes to drug, we're talking about the body as well. So of course the body's affected. And therefore, when the moment we start to they stop it, they do have these withdrawal symptoms. And what we have to do is they have to understand that these withdrawal symptoms doesn't come because of the lack of the drug. Although it seems, although it feels as though, okay, the drug is what can cure the withdrawal symptoms. Instead, what we have to show them is, well, it's not curing the symptoms, but making it worse. It's just almost like, you know how sometimes we have like leaky roofs? Yeah, like I remember back in my room, I used to have like a drip. And every single time, right, because we're not bothered, all we do is just paint over it, put plaster and we paint over it. By taking drugs, what we're doing is that, because you are not getting rid of these symptoms, you are just covering it up. So what we have to do is they have to understand it's not the drugs itself that are giving the symptoms, it's the bodies that are getting used to the lack of drugs. So honestly, they have to push through. The only thing they can do, it's only something they can do by themselves. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there is something that we can specifically do to help them push through, unless give them other things to help them with the symptoms. But I don't think there is much we can do about it. Except unless they understand that it's not to get rid of these symptoms is not, the answer is not to take the drugs. We have to show them that. If they understand that, and if they fully understand that, because what we have to understand is the mind rules over the body. No matter how much pain we feel, the mind will always rule over the body. Because the body's limit will be to faint. We can say, for example, the body's limit is fainting. If the body cannot handle anything, it will just shut off. But that can be accomplished by the mind itself, which means the mind can overpower the body. So no matter how much the body wants, the reason why people will come back to drugs, come back going through his withdrawal symptoms, the only reason why they'll come back to it is because they don't want to feel this pain. Because this pain is so great, and they feel, you know what, I'm feeling this pain now, and in the future I'll be feeling more of this pain. Therefore, they fit all this pain into one mind, and they say, I'm feeling way too much pain now. But what they have realized is they're feeling only one amount of pain. The pain they're feeling is only this moment. It's only if they think about the future and think, you know what, if I'm feeling this much pain now, in the future I'm going to be feeling more pain. And they feel almost a combination of all of this. Or they may think, you know what, I'm feeling pain. Because I've stopped, I feel pain now. I feel pain in the past, and I will feel pain in the future. They put them all these three together and put them in one mind, and they feel way too much. What they have to understand is they're feeling pain at this moment alone. When they understand that, now this pain is more tolerable. They can tolerate this pain. And their mind can power their body not to go and, well, the mind controls, right? So the mind will not go and take it. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it kind of, yeah. It's difficult. It is difficult because it's not just the mind, it's also the body. It also has habitual tendencies as well. So, for example, some children, if they are born as babies and their mother may have been using drugs whilst they were pregnant, then sometimes the baby is actually born with a drug withdrawal symptoms. So obviously you can't teach babies in terms of mental control, etc. So it is quite a complex thing. We also have someone online who's added to the discussion as well. And what she said is this: currently some state governments in Australia which are considering legalising cannabis for this drug-dependent patients who are experiencing continuous daily body pains. Someone else has also said CBD might already be legal and is very effective for pain management. It has worked wonders for my brother's friend and my father when he was taking therapy. I don't know, Venerable, you wish to comment on that in terms of legalising cannabis, particularly medical cannabis?
I don't know. Am I for or against? I don't know. I don't have enough facts to give my opinion on that.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay, so great discussion. So another question. So is the craving formed by perception from reinforced experiential emotions, whether pleasure or otherwise?
So craving?
Is the craving formed by perception from reinforced experiential emotions, whether pleasure or otherwise?
So craving is formed because we make a connection between this item or what we're doing and pleasure. Because of this connection that we make, now we crave for it because that's what makes us happy. We feel that this is what makes us happy. Therefore, to be more happy, I must have more. So if I have made the connection that chocolate will make me happy, that means more chocolate should make me more happy. That's why we'll go and eat and look for more chocolate. but unfortunately, that's not how it works.
Okay, thank you. Then there's some comments which may arise from talking about craving, maybe some form of wholesome desire. So someone's comment is bhavana, mental development or cultivation, is translated as meditation English. So yes, we have wholesome desire, chanda for it. Someone else has said striving for liberation is a wholesome desire, and the Buddha said wholesome desires are needed to propel our motivation to rid ourselves of samsara. So perhaps then the question perhaps is that whilst we're talking here about craving that causes suffering, are there also other forms of desire, not necessarily the craving you were talking about, that is wholesome?
So this comes that's a very good question, actually. So it's is there a good sort of craving? If when you desire something, it gives you pressure, then that is something that we can say is a bad sort of craving. But if something you do and you say something you desire does not give you pressure, instead it helps you get rid of pressure itself, then we can say that's good. So that's what I believe chanda to be. So chanda is the wanting to get rid of wanting, which is basically canceling itself out here. So just as I think the example that my teachers always give is you need a boat to swim and cross the ocean. So you can only let go of the boat once you cross the sea or once you cross the river. So that want is almost like that want is more not of a want, but almost like a responsibility that you have towards yourself. What I mean is like you want to be happy. And so if we understand that this is not the way to be happy, that means using and getting rid of craving itself should make you be happy. Therefore, it's a responsibility that we have towards ourselves. So is it a wanting? Yes and no, kind of.
Thank you. I've got another question. May craving be unwholesome, for example, from sadism or psychopathy?
So whenever there's craving and whenever there's pressure, right? The only thing that can happen is what we have to understand is the Coke can or this soft drink doesn't want to explode. It's not something that it decides, you know what, I'm going to explode. It's something that happens, right? So it's almost like the Coke can's vulnerable. It's innocent here. It's the pressure that builds up that makes it explode. So craving itself leads to pressure, and this pressure can lead to unwholesome outcomes. So sadism and psychopathy, those are, it depends on how you define unwholesome. So if you think of unwholesome, because how I would define unwholesome would be if it hurts myself or if it hurts other people, that is, or hurts yourself or your surrounding, that is unwholesome. So just because you hold a belief doesn't mean that that is unwholesome. But craving itself, so it's almost like it's neutral, but until you react until you do something, then now it becomes unwholesome. So that action becomes unwholesome. But just having a belief, I don't think to be unwholesome. Again, I'm not very sure about that. I'll ask my teachers.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, any other questions from the room? Those online, any other questions? So Venerable, earlier in the video, it was quite interesting because we see that at the beginning, the character actually got quite a high from the object of his craving. but then it was almost as if like the more he took it, the less impact that it has in terms of getting that pleasure. So it's almost like he's become desensitized to it and it makes him feel worse. So obviously that yellow thing, we don't know what that is. Do you think that nugget, thank you. Do you think that is that the same for all objects of craving, that all objects of craving will have that diminishing returns over time and that negative effect on something?
I won't say all, but most, yes. As in, the more we do it, because remember, it's this pressure and the belief in pressure. So if we don't feel the same amount of relief, we have to increase it a bit. So for example, I don't think it happens to all, but it will happen to most.
Okay.
So for example, like say food, right? You may want, say, sometimes a small amount of food is not enough. You need more. It's not like the body needs more, but the mind will need more of it. And it can create this this need for more things, or it needs to be stronger, or needs to be, because your body gets used to it and so does the mind.
Just following up on that, would you say that if you have a craving for something and you do it more often, that part of the reason why you feel dissatisfied is because you're actually doing it more often, so you're releasing the pressure valve
More.
so you're not actually, you stop doing it for ages and the pressure builds up more, and then you get a bigger explosion of pressure, which makes you feel happier.
Exactly. Yeah, that's yeah. Because the more we do it, the less pressure builds up. Therefore, it doesn't give us that that happiness, the same amount of pleasure. That means we have to find something else that gives us more happiness. That's why, yes, that's exactly how it happens.
That's a really good observation, David. Some other questions. So now the questions are flowing in, huh? So next question is, if objects have diminishing returns, doesn't that mean ultimately they will not give us any pleasure and hence we will stop craving? Logically, then maybe no.
If objects
have diminishing returns, so the nugget, doesn't that mean ultimately they will not give us any pleasure and hence we will stop craving?
But as you saw, that like this bird, the less pleasure it got from the nugget, because it had the belief that the nugget was what makes it happy. So the less it makes it happy, the more depressed, the more sad the bird got. So no. The more you take it doesn't mean your pleasure will end. It means that the pressure is more. The build-up of pressure is more, because it's not giving you the same high, but you still want it, and therefore it won't give you pleasure, but the pressure is still there, and the pressure is very high, and that can lead to many other problems. So, no.
So no, folks, you got to keep practicing, huh? Don't just indulge. So somebody else said, I learned that stopping oneself from getting something that we really want, knowing that it leads to suffering, is actually a good karma as one is practicing self-restraint. Any comments on that, Venerable?
So stopping yourself from doing something.
So practicing self-restraint, that's actually good karma.
If it's helping yourself or helping someone else, it's good. If it's not helping yourself, not helping another person, doing bad to them, it's bad. So if it's helping yourself, it's good, yes.
So one way to counter craving, would you say that self-restraint is a form of, or abstaining from it?
Abstaining would be reducing the response that you'd have to it. So you're restraining your response, or you're restraining the trigger. But just because you restrain doesn't mean the craving will disappear. It's because say it's like just because cotton doesn't meet fire doesn't mean the cotton is not flammable. It has the quality of flammable. So what we have to do is remove that quality. So self-restraint itself will, I don't think will get rid of craving. But self-restraint is very important to get rid of craving, part of the process.
And to get rid of craving, then we would have to face the cause of the craving, right? So we would have to look at the craving in itself.
Yes.
And in doing that, is that to, for example, consider the drawbacks of the craving? Would that be one way to uproot that craving?
Thinking about the drawbacks, or thinking about that by showing yourself, it's not pleasure itself. It's the relief from this pressure. So yes, drawbacks. That is a big drawback, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, great. Somebody else has made these comments and questions. There is a difference between needs and wants. Is it good or bad if we are hungry and craving for food? If we are not hungry yet desire delicious food, we eat to release the pressure. Logically, if our basic needs are satisfied, we should be sufficiently happy. Yet there will be some forms of dissatisfaction. Isn't this ironic?
So yes, so needs and wants are two completely different things, right? So needs, so instead of using the word needs, I use the word responsibilities or duties, because these are things that we have to do for as long as we're alive. And wants is what we desire, the things. Now, when you are hungry, you have the duty to feed yourself and to satiate that hunger, right? But if you want to eat food and that creates the pressure, then now it's you feel, you know what, I must have food, I have to have food, I have to eat food. And now you feel this pressure. Now just think about it, right? Let's say you really want to eat food, right? You really want to eat food because of hunger, right? But you really want to eat food. Now, don't you have a tendency to do whatever you can to get food? Which means you can have the tendency to hurt someone, to lie to someone, or do something to someone because you want to eat food, because of the pressure. That wasn't caused because of your duty you have to yourself. That's caused because of the wanting you have. The wanting you have to relieve yourself. But if you got rid of that wanting, that doesn't mean you won't go and eat. That going and eating part is part of that duty you have with yourself, or that need. So by satisfying your needs or satisfying your duties, well, that is your responsibilities, and therefore you should be happy. But if you get rid of wants, you will not have that form of dissatisfaction.
So would you say then the issue isn't the object of our craving, but rather our relationship to that object? And if that relationship is filled with craving for it, then of course that will likely cause the problems.
Yes.
But if our relationship is simply, this is just something that I use, this is something that I need to sustain the body, then that's a healthy relationship with the object. Whereas most of the time we spend so much time looking at the object as the problem rather than looking at the craving itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense to me. Thank you. Now, we have another question. So the question is, maybe the scale of diminishing satisfaction until it plateaus and then rise again, so we get up and down curves of satisfaction.
So wait, again?
Maybe it's the scale of diminishing satisfaction until it plateaus and then rise again, so we get up and down curves of satisfaction. I think that's more of a comment rather than a question. So yes, I guess. Another one, again, comments. It's the variety of objects that is the allure, I think, the combinations, the novelty, etc. of an experience. So turning that into question then perhaps, Venerable, would you say that one of the ways that we crave is that the mind is so restless that we get bored with one thing, and so we then move to something else, and then we move to something else, and the allure here what it is that we're craving is that constant changes in stimulus.
So yes, our mind is very, the mind itself isn't restless. The mind itself is something that arises and passes away a billion times a second. But what is restless is our innate desire for difference, for change. That causes, that means that's why we can't stay still for a long period of time looking at the same thing for a long period of time, because we need to change. We need to find some sort of change because our mind really wants change, difference. And therefore, that wanting itself is also a pressure. And it's a underlying pressure. And that pressure, well, once you feel that change, you feel happy. Therefore, again, you want more change. So yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Venerable, for answering our questions and the excellent Dharma talk and great discussion as well. I'm going to now pass it over to Elise for her to MC the rest of this.
Okay, thank you so much, Venerable, and for your wonderful, wonderful talk and answering all our questions. We had a lot of questions here, and thank you everyone for all your questions and participation, making it ever more engaging. Thank you, Tina, for facilitating. So before we close off, we'd like you, Venerable, we'd like to invite you to give a closing prayer or a dedication of merits, if that's okay.
Okay. Let's take a few moments to transfer all the merits we've acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem and the various meritorious deeds we've done today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Buddhist teachings, and with immense gratitude, let's transfer the merits to the Bhikshu Bhikshunis, Upasikas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha and passed it down through a generation of noble lineage in form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend the Dhamma. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including all chief prelates of all chapters, who have dedicated their lives to no path and committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let's not forget, among them will be the monks and nuns resident in local temples and nunneries, who have always been by our side through thick and thin, come and shine. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all the monks and nuns, all the monks resident in the monastery, as well as Anagarikas attached to the monasteries. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits and express our gratitude to those who make great effort to disseminate the teaching of the Buddha, be that by transliterating sermons, sharing them out with others, inviting others to join them. May by the paramedics, if any have been born in the world of plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in the bliss of plane. May by the paramedics, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble path, and attain supreme nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, friends and acquaintances, employees, and to all those who've helped us, supported us, assisted us in any shape or form. By the power of the merits, may they be healed in physical mental ailments, may they overcome any obstacles in their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble path, and attain supreme nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer our merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, Paramasaka. There was numerous gods and deities who have committed to protect and fulfill the Sambhuddha Sasana. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to our garden deities who keep watch forever us and keep us out of harm's way. May the power merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And also let's take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who have predeceased us, to all that's been friends and family to us in the infinite long journey in samsara. Let's also take more transformers to the armed forces, the police force who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who have lost life in the world be their friend or foe. Rejoice in the mercy of God today. Let's also take more transformers to all those who've lost their life in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, and pandemics. Reminding ourselves among them will be those that have been friends and family to us in this infinitely long journey in samsara. May by the power of merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful planes, and may by the power of merits, may they abstain from meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble path, and attain supreme nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, in soul resolve, may the power and blessing of all the merits acquired throughout the day. We've been witness event of many hundreds of thousands of Arhat nuances, Arhat main nuances in this very land itself, and finally, through the power of the merits all acquired throughout the day, you and I and everyone who made this program a success become become an Arhat Nuance or Arhat main Nuance in this very life, and may we all abstain from meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble path, and may we all attain supreme bliss and nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for the dedication of merits, Venerable. So before we finish off, I'd like to make some announcements of upcoming awesome events. So next Wednesday, we have Venerable Reverend Miao Yu speaking on the topic of the 8 realizations of a bodhisattva and the relevance to a modern world. So same time, same place on Zoom. We also have 2 upcoming retreats and plenty of special events coming up. So, as Venerable mentioned in today's talk, we need to find a way to detox ourselves. How? Come to the Buddhist Detox Retreat. So that will be on the 19th to 20th of August at Karuna Sanctuary Retreat. And that will be guided by the presence of Venerable Dassa Thero and Venerable Mahinda Thero. So the link to the retreat will be on, I'll just post it in the chat now. There you go. So please come to that. There is also another non-residential 2 days meditation retreat by Venerable Vimoka on the 8th and 9th of July. So check it out on our website as well. And we have a few special events. So we have a mindfulness relationship workshop with Karen Gills on the 15th of July. So that will be in the afternoon from 1:30 to 3:30. We also have the Metta Convention Week, which opens with a Buddhist Bowl Trivia. How cool is that? Buddhist Bowl Trivia on the 25th of September. Lock it into your calendar, guys. There'll be a whole week of meta events going on that week. So lock the whole week in. And save the date for the weekend of the 30th of September to the 1st of October for the Metta Olympics. So it's a Metta convention, playing the games of loving kindness. And Metta Center is also proud to launch a new project called the Metta Connection. So that's an online professional network platform to connect lay people with Buddhist community to practice right livelihood. So Tina, would you like to expand on the Metta Connections?
Yeah, sure. So it's just very briefly, we've just launched this as a way to support lay practicing Buddhists to practice right livelihood. So we spend a lot of time at work. So this is an opportunity for us to practice the Dhamma in whatever profession and work that we do. It's also a way for us to connect the lay community with the monastic Sangha community as well. So if there are any Buddhist temples as well as Buddhist organizations who would need any supports from the lay community, this is a platform where they can search and look for any lay Buddhists who would like to offer their assistance. So if you're a lay Buddhist and you have skills that you would like to offer, we encourage you to go to www.mettaconnections.com and you can list your profile there. And it's all for free, completely free platform, and you can bring your friends on board as well. Thanks.
Thank you. And last but not least, if you'd like to join the Metta Center group chats, there is a link that I've just posted up. So connect with Metta Center friends, and we just chat away. We have updates on our events and stuff like that. And we also invite you to make a donation for Metta Center so that we can spread the Dharma to more people. Thank you everyone for attending today's talk, and hopefully to see you more in our events, and see you next week and at the Buddhist Detox Retreat. Thank you.